Praise the Lord. We're going to have a good week this week with our podcast. The last week or so, we have been studying the qualifications necessary to be included in the pre-tribulation rapture of the church. And we have looked at the need to have pretty strong faith that pleases God, and faith that will be evident when Jesus comes for the church. We've also looked at some of his teaching on the 50% rule, that there were two in the field, one taken, one left, two at the mill, one taken, one left. We looked at the 50% rule as it pertained to the 10 virgins in Matthew 25, where 5 were ready and 5 weren't. And when the bridegroom came, which is indicative of Jesus coming back for the church, the 5 that were ready, the 5 wise virgins went in to that feast, that celebration, but the other 5 scurried around to get ready. And when they came to the feast, they found the door was closed and they couldn't get in. So we need to be ready for the rapture of the church that occurs prior to the tribulation period beginning. It's essential, otherwise you're going to go through the first portion of the tribulation, maybe the whole tribulation if you don't get your act together. Now, over the 6 months we have been sharing these podcasts, we've looked at so many different topics. And in looking at those topics, we have been focusing on the last days and the coming of the tribulation period, which is preceded by the rapture of the pre-tribulation saints, like the red-hot Christians. Today, before we get into this week's material, I wanted to review with you the timeline, God's timeline. And in Genesis chapter 1, it talks about creation. 6 days of creation and 1 day of rest. 7 days in total, equivalent to what we call our week. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. The Apostle Peter, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, he said, "Remember this, beloved, a day in the eyes of the Lord, or in the sight of the Lord, is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day." This gives us an indication that life on earth will be approximately 6,000 years of time, followed by a 1,000-year period that Jesus Christ rules and reigns on the earth. It's the millennial reign of Christ. When we start to look at the historical records, we find that from the time of creation all the way through to the birth of Jesus is approximately 4,000 years, or 4 days. There's a quite strong indication that he was born on the cusp of 4 BC or 3 BC. You know how we go from December into January and the time changes, the year changes? Well, somewhere in that time frame he was born. He lived on the earth for about 33 or so years, 33 years, months, etc. So his death seems to be late 29 AD or early 30 AD. So let's use 30 AD as our date of his death, passing, and so on. Well, what do we got? We've got 2 days left on the 6-day schedule of creation. 2 days is approximately 2,000 years, obviously, as Peter told us. So if we take the 2,000 years, it's called the church age. We're living in it right now. It's also the new covenant. It's also the age of grace. It's the church age. We're living in it. These 2,000 years. Tremendous advancements have been made over this entire period, obviously. So if we were very simplistic in our approach and not trying to be absolutely dead or like right on, but just simplistic, looking at a season of time, 2,000 years of the church. If it began, obviously, with the birth of Jesus Christ. With the death of Jesus Christ. That's 30 AD. Add them together. You get 2030. Now, I'm not trying to set a time. I'm just trying to bring to your attention that you've been on the earth a long time already. Some of you are in your 20s, some are in your 30s, some are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever the case may be. You have become so used to living on the earth, you don't pay a whole lot of attention to where we might be on God's timetable. And so the only point that I'm trying to raise with you is that we're closer to the end than we know we are. The 7 years of tribulation are part of the church age period, according to Daniel chapter 9. And they're part of the church age period. It's the last week of years that God is dealing with the nation of Israel, the Jewish people. So when we subtract that 7 from 2030, we're likely going to be around 2024. And once again, not trying to set a time, but I'm trying to give you some indication of the season we're in. We just entered into the fall season, the autumn season, and things are a little cooler, hence the sweater today. Things are a little cooler. We're in the season of fall. We're heading towards the season of winter. We're heading towards the season of his appearing. So if our simple math were to be anywhere close to correct, we're just a few months away from the beginning of what would be the tribulation. And as I say, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just trying to bring to your attention that we should be looking up, for our redemption draws nigh, and we should be getting our acts together, and we should be ready. Boy, should we be ready for what's coming in the weeks and months ahead. We don't want to be foolish virgins. Tomorrow, we got a great week of material for you. I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks.